Can you guys believe this? The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals steps in and grants an emergency stay on behalf of California. Let's talk about it. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm about as mad as you can get at this one. I just can't believe it. I mean, I can believe it because it's the Ninth Circuit, but just so to speak, I can't believe it. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has once again shown that they care more about California politicians and more about California politics than they do about the people of California, or the Constitution for that matter, which is what they're there to do. They're there to uphold the Constitution and make sure that government abides by law. That's the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals' job. They're supposed to interpret law in a fair manner that looks at both sides, and then they're supposed to come to a conclusion based on the text of the Constitution. That is what they are supposed to do, but they didn't do that in this case. So here's what happened. Yesterday, Californians were extremely happy, and they had every right to be, and that's because federal Judge Roger Benitez issued an injunction in California's overreaching and unconstitutional ammunition regulations that require background checks. I mean, that on its face alone is reason for an injunction, but Judge Benitez didn't just issue a simple injunction. He issued a 120-page order. That's like a small book detailing why he granted the injunction. So he goes over the 4 steps that he took in order to come up with his conclusion. He talks about why the first 2 steps were the most important, and then everything below is the reason why I'm granting this injunction. That's what he wrote, 120 pages, and it was pretty scathing against the California government for infringing on people's constitutional rights. So that was pretty encouraging to a lot of Californians because, again, it wasn't just a simple order, it was 120-page order. I mean, imagine how that guy feels right now knowing that his colleagues overturned all the work that he had put in putting out that order and writing 120 pages. Nonetheless, we knew that California was going to come in and ask for a stay, which they did almost immediately. Now, Benitez could have ignored the stay, in which case the injunction just stays, but he didn't. He actually wrote another order, and in this order, again, he put down reasons why he wasn't going to grant the stay for California. So that was awesome. I mean, we kind of all figured that was coming based on what he had written, but that meant that people could go out and they could buy ammo and shop online and do whatever they wanted, and at least part of their freedom was granted back to them. Well, late last night, California, who is just, in an extreme hurry to make sure that you don't have a constitutionally protected right, decided to ask for an emergency stay from other judges in the Ninth Circuit. So I have that here, and these 2 judges, one of which was appointed by Trump, okay? So just try and remember that in the future. When Trump appoints judges, it doesn't mean that's a good thing. If that judge doesn't believe in the Second Amendment, if that judge doesn't believe in constitutionally protected rights, it doesn't matter who appointed him. He's still the same judge regardless whether or not it was an Obama appointee or if it was a Trump appointee. And this proves to you right there that we get the same results regardless of who appointed them if they don't believe in the Constitution. But the judges that heard the emergency stay decided to issue that stay, effectively nullifying the injunction and putting the ammo background check laws back in place. So here's the other thing that really gets me too, is that the first Freedom Week, which was an injunction on California's magazine limitation ban. So basically in California, you can't have anything that's over 10 rounds. Benitez came in and issued an injunction that allowed people to get whatever magazines they wanted. So people were getting Magpul D60s, 40s, 30s, whatever they wanted. They were able to go out and buy them. They were able to have them shipped in, and people were getting as much as they could as fast as they could. Well, again, California comes in and asks for a stay on that one, but that time Benitez actually looked things over and decided to grant the stay. But instead of just issuing it immediately, what he did was he gave people time to get their affairs in order and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to allow the stay, but it's not going to take effect until Friday at, I think it was like 5:45. Again, which gave people time to get their affairs in order, right? So he didn't issue it just immediately, not thinking about the public, or what people were going through at the time. He gave people time. This time, when they went over his head to get the emergency stay, the stay was issued immediately. They didn't give people any time at all. As a matter of fact, this took place under the cover of darkness. I believe it was between 9:30 and 10 o'clock at night. So here you are, Friday night, everybody's, just trying to relax and settle down, and not too many people are sitting on their computers trying to keep up with stuff like this, and that's when they issue the stay, and the stay took effect immediately. They didn't give any period like tomorrow at noon or the next day, or we're going to issue the emergency stay, but we're going to give it a little bit of time. Nope, took effect immediately. So let me go ahead and read you guys this order. Now, the order was before Judge Murguia and Bennett. I'm not sure if I got that name right. Bennett is the Trump-appointed judge. Okay, so it was before those two judges, Murguia and Bennett. They are the circuit judges for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So again, we have an Obama judge and a Trump judge who came to the same conclusion here. And it says, the court has received the appellant's emergency motion for stay. The request for an immediate administrative stay is granted. The district court's April 23rd, 2020 preliminary injunction order is temporarily stayed pending further order. The court will address the emergency stay motion by separate order. So just like that, without any rhyme or reason. I mean, Benitez issues the injunction and writes 120 pages. When they ask for a stay, again, he writes this long reason why he's not going to issue their stay. But when the state steps in and talks to two people who don't like the Second Amendment, it happens instantly, and just a very short response that doesn't give you any details. What drives me nuts here is they're completely ignoring 120 pages. Could you imagine being Judge Benitez right now, who took weeks and all of his time to write 120 pages and list all the cases that he's referencing and really put everything down on paper as to why he feels that this injunction needs to take place, and then you just have two of your colleagues essentially just erase it in a heartbeat. All that work that he put in to make sure that that injunction would not only stay in place, but he had enough reasoning in there so that if anybody else were to look at the injunction, they could say that this is a pretty solid document, and obviously he took his time, so we're going to go ahead and keep the injunction in place based off of what he had in his 120-page order. But no, instead of looking at that, or instead of at least citing some facts or statistics, they just issued the stay. Just like that, completely ignoring the fact that the state is not injured by this. Okay, the people are. You're talking about 16 or 17% false positives on these background checks. So that means when somebody goes in to purchase ammunition, they complete the background check, and then it comes back and they're denied 16 or 17% of the time. That's 16% of the people who are having their rights completely infringed upon. I mean, an ammunition background check, a waiting period, and all the laws California has on their books, those are already unconstitutional, and people's rights are already being infringed. But to the point where your rights are completely stripped from you, because if you don't have ammunition, then you don't have a working firearm, and therefore you don't have a Second Amendment. So that's how big this is. Those 16 or 17% of the people did not have ammunition for their firearms, and they weren't able to use them, effectively stripping them of their Second Amendment rights. That's what happened here. They didn't mention anything about that. They didn't mention anything about what would happen to the state if the injunction were to stay in place. They didn't happen to say anything about the people if the injunction was to stay in place. And they didn't happen to say what the effects could possibly be if a stay was granted. They just, bam, just instantly granted it like that and just washed clean what Judge Roger Benitez had done. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm at work and I come up with something that's that solid and I work for that long on it, and two other employees who just happen to maybe not like my department just decide to throw it in the trash, I'm going to be pretty upset. And it's just, again, they care more about the politicians in California. They care more about California government than they do the people. And this proves right here that they could care less about the Constitution. Not just in the fact that they ordered the stay, but they don't even mention what it would do to the population of California by issuing the stay. They just did it. Now, I know a lot of you are going to have questions, but if I'm just being honest, I don't have too many answers on this one. People are going to ask me if it's a temporary stay, how long is that stay going to last? Well, the people that I've talked to all just say a while. It could take a while before we actually find out whether or not the stay is going to be temporary or if it's going to last until the end of the case. So we don't know right now exactly how long it's going to be before we hear an update about this. People are also going to ask me about orders that they've already put in the time frame where the injunction was in place. And I don't know. I don't know if those orders are going to be still sent out or if the orders are going to be canceled. I'm not sure. You know, people that walked into a shop and were able to purchase ammunition yesterday, they got lucky. They were able to buy it, you know, pretty much immediately and able to have it in hand. So there's nothing they could do about that. I mean, it was all perfectly legal at the time. If you were able to buy ammunition online, it was perfectly legal. So don't misunderstand that. If you were able to buy ammo online through that window, that time frame, then you are perfectly legal and within your rights to do so. I mean, you're within your rights anyway, but you know, whether or not you're in your rights to California DOJ and the law enforcement that you know will come by your house in order to pick you up, you are within your rights in that particular window. What happened if you ordered it, let's say, after the stay was issued, that I don't know. So this happened on April 23rd, so yesterday, but the document that we have here is filed April 24th. So I don't know if it goes from the date that the stay was filed or if it was at the time the stay was granted. So I'm not sure if it was even the 23rd or the 24th that is going to make the biggest difference here. I mean, I assume people can fight it because if it hasn't been filed yet, maybe it's not official, but it was filed April 24th. So I don't know. It's you know, every time that you think California gets a little bit of a step ahead, they get beat back again by the people who are supposed to be protecting the Constitution. You know, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which gets turned over more than any other court of appeals in the country, shouldn't they be embarrassed? I mean, wouldn't you be embarrassed if you worked somewhere and you were constantly proven that you were the worst company out of all of the other companies like yours in the entire country? Because that's kind of what it is for the Ninth Circuit. That would be embarrassing to me. If I was a judge, a federal judge, and I worked on the court that was the worst in the entire country, being overturned is basically saying you were wrong. Okay, so if a higher court overturns the Ninth Circuit, they said you were wrong. And so if you're being proven wrong that much, then you're being proven ineffective. And something needs to be done about that. And it can't just be Trump appointees. We have to put constitutional judges in there, people that believe in the Bill of Rights, people believe in people's own personal civil liberties. That's who needs to be in there. I don't care who appoints them. They just need to be in there. And these people who don't believe in the Constitution need to be removed. They need to be impeached if that's possible. I don't even know if that's possible. But if it is, we need to get rid of them. Anyway, that's the latest update that I have. I'm really sorry. One of the reasons that I couldn't sleep last night, honestly, is because I didn't want to have to get in front of the camera and tell you guys this. You know, it's one thing when you get all excited and you tell people good news, but you know you got to sit down the next morning, get in front of the camera, and tell people that their rights have been stripped away. It's a heavy burden for me. I know some people just, whatever, it's just another video, but for me it's a heavy burden because I've invested so much into this over the past 7 years of doing California videos. 7 years I've been doing this, and I hate getting in front of the camera with bad news like this. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and have a great day.